You're listening to Surely a Mystery, straight from Long Beach Island, New Jersey. We're here to share with you all the spooky, scary, and mind-bending enigmas that make up the Jersey Shore. I'm your living host, Anna, here with some mystery, history, and a few tips to proper ghost hunting. So why don't we get started? Obviously, a long time ago, listeners have noticed that there have been no commercials. Well, I'm happy to announce that there are enough listeners that I can begin to have paying advertisers. The upside is that I have to change the format a little bit by not having a sponsor break in the middle. I honestly have no idea who the advertisers will be. I do know that they rotate. Kind of like if you listen to Crime Junkies, which is a 55-minute show, roughly there are 2 to 4 advertisements. It's going to be the same time as mine, so I'll let you know. Also, I want to thank all those Canadian listeners who now make up more than half of my total listeners. I find it really funny that I have so many Canadians listening about New Jersey. Did you flee the country, up there on business? Well, we truly are an international show. We now have listeners on every continent. But I still would love you to tell your friends about the show so we can get even more. In this episode, I wanted to delve into the histories and mysteries of 4 particularly abandoned mansions in New Jersey. Now, trust me, when I started doing research, I found that there's so many abandoned ones, it really happens more than you think. People built these extravagant palaces, and then through family squabbles, no one wants to bear the burden of the costs. Other reason is that people don't really have quote-unquote summer homes like that anymore. We don't speed off and for 2 to 3 weeks for vacation. Okay, most of us don't. First of all, it can also be because of the horrible New Jersey hurricanes that wreck a house and then it's too much to repair. Other times I see fires which cause irreparable damage. On the island, we have houses which people rarely visit and plots that have been sitting there perhaps till they get offered the right price. Take my neighbor for instance. They wanted to build their dream house. So they tore it down, they built it, and then he decided he really didn't like coming to the island. So he sold it. Now I can't say that I have ever seen the new owners. I see their boat and I see their car, but I've never seen the people. All right, ghosts in an abandoned mansion. Come on, how stereotypical can you get? How many horror movies do people flock to and see ghosts, demons, and goblins in the mysterious empty house? Don't go there, 'cause it's haunted. Every teen with a TikTok account would be there in a snap. No questions about safety or legality. Yet, today, we have a whole market of people who even give ghost tours or ghost hunting on the weekends at these abandoned mansions. For 2 of these that I will talk about, if you Google it, the first thing that comes up is pay to spend the weekend or night with your friends in the house. This stuff is big business to these particular properties. Perhaps why Ghostober on the Discovery Channel is a big deal. Why? The basic and most clear-cut answer is that we want to know what happens when we die. That's it. Do we move on? Do we move on to a new body? Do we go to heaven, hell, or purgatory? Every year, after Houdini's death, his wife Bess did a seance to try and contact him on Hallows Eve. On Halloween, why? Well, that's when he died. I used to drive by his Los Angeles home every year wondering, did he really still walk the grounds, or did he choose to stay silent because he knew the truth and we couldn't handle it? Whatever that truth truly is. Now let's do a quick refresher about ghosts in abandoned houses. Sorry if you know the types, but knocks and pinks, just like a little kid trying to get your attention, I call those whispers. The entity has just enough energy to notify you that something or someone was there. You think of it also kind of like a signal to warn you know that someone came into their space. Trip the trap and instant ghost noises. Now, that doesn't mean that they're still there, but could be if you give them enough energy. Then you have ghosts that are on a loop, a repeat, a residual haunting. For whatever reason, they are showing you the same images or sounds over and over again. Doesn't mean that they react to you. They just keep doing the same things. So all those white ladies in windows who are looking mournfully out, those are more than likely a residual haunting. Those ladies did that so many times while being emotionally charged that it imprinted in that space. Then you have interactive ghosts. You might see them, or you might just quote unquote talk with them. It really rarely goes both ways. It's not like in the movies. That's a rare occasion. Sometimes you can see them, but it's not until later when reviewing your tape that you catch some small audio bit. Don't forget smells too. For example, in my house, I smell my grandfather every once in a while. It doesn't happen all the time. We smell the smoke from his cigars because he loves cigars. Lastly, also listen to your body. The hair on your arms, the back of your neck tingle, or the obvious temperature shift, up or down. Mostly down because it's physics. They're taking your hot energy and converting it to their needs. Noises, moving things, or appearing. They are no longer making their own heat energy and they need yours or your equipment's to appear. I picked two not widely known about, so I then left the other two for the end of the show, the one that people kind of know about. So first, let's talk about the Ryer House. Most of you know it by its other name, the Big Blue House. If you've ever seen the cheesy Space Cadet movie, then 226 Main Street in Matwan will come to mind. It's a Victorian house with loads of blue, and it is big. 7 bedrooms and 3 baths. A huge wraparound porch and a half an acre of land. I know, I sound like a real estate agent. But it was bought in 2007 by a guy who wanted to make offices out of it. But the local government said nope. So it's been standing vacant. But in 2019, they decided that maybe they'll convert it into 7 or 8 mini apartments. Well, I'm not sure really what's happening because people are saying there's still no construction. But let's go back to the beginning, in 1873. That's when the Victorian Beauty was built. The guy who constructed the house is the first individual who lived in it, David G. Ryer. His fortune was made on produce trading. That's right, vegetables. His family was one of the most prominent New Jersey families in the 1800s. When he inherited the business, he decided to move to Matwan and even become the mayor for a bit. He lived in the house until 1899. And another interesting connection about him is he had family in the South, and he even inherited a home called the Magnolia Farm, which is also said to be haunted. But that would totally be a whole nother show. He had 2 children, both girls, and both born during the Civil War. His wife died long after him in 1907. Only he and one other owner died in the house. However, no one's really quite sure exactly who haunts the house. Many of the previous owners moved out within 3 years. Yeah, it's really creepy. If you go back in the owner records, it's almost like clockwork. Every 3 years, the house is sold. I'm really not sure if they move out before, but it is like clockwork. And that goes like 1907 to about 2007. Remember, the guy who bought it in 2007 has never lived there full time. So that's probably why he held on to it for so long. But what is it about that 3-year mark? I think it's more like 2 years, because when you buy a house, the first 2 years, you're settling in. It's kind of like the honeymoon period. The second year is when things would start to happen. And the third year, you're trying to offload it because you can't take the haunting anymore. If you look at the census record, Ryer actually had 5 children. His wife and a man named John Donnelly lived there also. But census records are great, but they only are like a 10-year snapshot. So 10 years before that census, he actually had 6 kids. And no John, and a woman named Reese who lived with them. I'm going to say that's probably like a nanny. So could the 2 to 3 year mark be that missing child who died? Well, here's what people are saying about the house. I walk by and the drapes will move. I always chalk it up to the wind coming into an old house, but then there's no wind outside. So maybe it's a stray cat. I really don't want to know. I often see a woman in the window or walk behind the curtain that's in the window. It's creepy weird. I keep thinking, who's that? But there's nobody living there. So then it's maybe a homeless lady? The front gate will also open and close on its own. And that thing is heavy with a lock too. One cop said, we take the rookies by there. It's just creepy. We get calls for vandals or kids doing a dare, but it's like, I don't know, creepy, especially at night. You turn around and you expect somebody to be behind you. Well, according to others, kids will often try to sneak in, but no one really talks about why. They just refer to how creepy it is and no other reason. Maybe you want to check it out. My second abandoned mansion is in Patterson, the Barber Mansion. Now, not to be confused with the other Barber Mansion in Florida. Oh yes, it's also haunted. But this is our very own aristocratic Greek Revival mansion with really scary demon-like vampire angel sculptures. The gargoyles that are on the house and the grounds look like angry vampires with teeth. John Barber's family ran several mills in the Patterson area during their prime. It took over 20 servants to run the house, which has 42 rooms and 12 fireplaces, even a beautiful library, and 5 acres. Don't forget the greenhouse, and it used to have stables. But in 1966, it became a Catholic girls' school. But then it became a convent. But then it became office space for the Catholic Church. And in 1994, it was completely abandoned by the Catholic Church. Let's just say the Catholic Church doesn't like to waste land. For example, there was a group of nuns that didn't want a particular convent retreat in Los Angeles. Think Katy Perry. So they put the property up for sale. Why is this hanging around? Why are they so unwilling to repurpose it? They're allowing for paid ghost hunts, but they're not allowing active workers on the site daily. It's on a busy street, right on the border of Bergen County, but it's still there. And you can check it out on Google Maps. It is still not being used. Now here's why we think. Some former students say that at night you could hear things, like parties going on or footsteps in the hallway. Students who weren't behaving properly often left the school or tried to run away multiple times. It was decided that the girls' school wasn't needed anymore, so it became a convent. But then there weren't enough nuns who wanted to stay there, so they decided to switch to office space. There are no recorded deaths at the house, but interestingly enough, there are loads of suicides and murders near the location. If you look at the area, it's not a really bad area. A school is on one side, the properties around the rest of it are great, they're well kept. But on the lavish property itself, no murders, no ODs, nothing that shows up in the records. Some neighbors will say that they'll see lights on the property through the trees. After a while, they just decided they're not even going to bother calling the cops since no one ever gets caught. The cops will go check it out, they'll come back, they'll say there's nothing there, and it's a wild goose chase. The upper windows of the home are mostly broken and easy access. The lower windows do have protective locked screens to block any entry. But no homeless have taken over. Why? According to some, the homeless won't even go there. It's waiting to be squatted, but nobody is willing to do so. Why would people not want a warm, quiet, empty, and safe place to stay? Is there something pushing them out? I don't think it's the former nuns. I think it's probably the staff or maybe former owners. Sort of the ghosts pushing out those who don't belong. They're not good enough. You don't belong here, so we're going to terrorize you until you leave. You can rent it for ghost tours, like I said. There are mysterious noises, sound of chairs that move, but there are no chairs. Figures that walk by, but nobody knows who they are. Could it be the girls? Could it be the nuns? Could it be the Barber family? I don't know. Check it out for yourself. Remember, you can rent it for the night for you and your friends. Now, Cliffdale Manor. It's a more popular site, and it is the last of the homes on Millionaire's Row that even though it's still in ruins, it's still standing. In 1911, George Zabriskie was 42 years old, and he made his money on the flower trade. He built it, and prior to the 1930s, his frenemy, J.D. Rockefeller, bought a lot of the properties near it. And although Rockefeller began building his own houses, he decided suddenly in 1933 to donate his property as a park. Later, he even bought the Cliffdale Manor, and Zabriskie sold the property to what he thought was a real estate agent, but wasn't told who it was really for. Then they tried to demolish Cliffdale and sort of make it an extension of the Rockefeller Park. But the demolition failed. They literally tried to blow up and tear down the buildings, but strange occurrences would happen, preventing a full demolition. So finally, they decided to just leave it as is. Originally, Zabriskie had purchased the land from a guy named William Baker, who was the inventor of the steam heat machine to incubate chicken eggs. George first decided to construct a house where he lived in there with his aunt for years while he was building the house and everything in it. He was fascinated with history and the fact that his ancestors lived near the site during the 1600s. In his spare time, he even wrote many books, including ones about Dutch Christmas traditions. And when he sold the house, he unknowingly had sold it to Rockefeller, and he decided, I'm going to move to Ormond Beach, Florida. He was never married, and many people believe that George was gay. That was one of the reasons that Rockefeller really wanted the land. He wanted to wipe it off the face of the earth and make it a park. Many of the flowers and ivy have survived and still flower there every year. It was a party house in its day, and today some people say that from the water you can still hear the music from that era. Some people say that when traveling on the water at night, you can also see lights on the hilltop. Not like campfire lights, but more like candles or electric lights. Many hikers say you can hear voices sort of carrying on the wind, laughing and talking. When they get there, there's nobody around. I think that it might mostly be residual hauntings of sort of the fun and the freedom of the people who were there when they were there. No tales of true interactions or full-blown apparitions. It's mostly faint images of people walking in the woods in old-time clothing, or a dog that's seen running. They see like a hunting dog, but then suddenly they chase after it and there's no dog. Sometimes they will smell cigars and pipes and worry that it's a forest fire. But after investigating, it's nothing. These ghostly events are a refusal to not go quietly since Rockefeller tried to destroy it. That quote unquote lifestyle wasn't talked about then. So these ghosts are still being gay in this beautiful set of ruins. One forest ranger said, "I always suspected that he might have been gay. Unmarried and your worst enemy is Rockefeller? Kind of makes sense." First time I went to the ruins, it took my breath away. I mean, even though it's run down. But as I was leaving it, I could hear people's voices, talking, some periodic laughing. So I went back to the site to see if there really were anybody there. But there wasn't anybody. Every time I would go to leave, I would get pulled back. It was really super strange. But maybe not so much because I am gay. And maybe that's just the way it is. Another abandoned mansion, tainted by love's curse, is Van Silky's Castle. It's actually really known as Foxcroft, probably because it sits high on Fox Mountain in Wanakee above Rampo Lake. William Porter, a New York City stockbroker, had begun building Foxcroft, but he wasn't married. He had no missus. It was about to be a summer house for him, a way to escape the heat and the summer smells of New York. Luckily, his best friend Charles Hallowell passed away. And it was so recent that only after a year, he turned around and married his friend's wife, Ruth Coles. William decided that he truly loved and needed an experienced hostess. So he married his best friend's wife. He figured that she was already rich and didn't need his money, so it was kind of a win-win. But within a few years, William also died, this time in a car accident, while Ruth was on a trip on the boat called the Lusitania. She once again was widowed and even more rich, super rich this time. However, not for long being single, because in 1913 she married for time number 3, Warren Van Silky. He was an attorney. He lasted a bit longer, but he died too in 1925. She moved into the mansion full-time by herself until her death at age 63 in 1940. For nearly 10 years after her death, the property was transferred from relative to relative because, frankly, nobody wanted it. Some say that a ghost would drive people away. Others believed it was a romantic curse, which would condemn those who lived there. According to records, people would buy it, and then within a short time, turn around a year or so later to sell it. Some kind of romantic discord between the properties who owned it. Spouses who previously adored each other would then be bitter exes within a year. Some would talk about the house being bad luck for couples, death, miscarriages, and other such things. But not at the site. It was always when they returned to the city. So, was it really Ruth who was cursed? She would pick apart any marriage or relationship and, as a ghost, torment the ones who weren't really truly in love? A version of, if I can't be happy, neither will you? The last owners of record were in such a bitter divorce. Neither wanted to live there, and neither wanted to sell it. So it stood empty. But in 1959, arsonists finally burnt it to the ground. Some people think it was an inside job. However, investigators could never prove anything. The couple were so unhappy that they probably would have burnt it down and hoped that it would have sparked a sale. Well, it didn't. No married couple would buy it. No single man wanted it. So eventually, the state of New Jersey decided to buy it. Now you can hike to it. Interesting enough, It has lots of blue paint like the last couple, which cling to the surfaces that are left. Many hikers will talk about seeing a woman in a dress walking around the grounds. They'd catch up to her, but she'd disappear. Forestry workers have seen lights. We see lights at that place all the time. Hikers aren't supposed to go there at night, but we see bouncing lights, almost like flashlights, kinda. They're not like fires, but they're more like orbs in the air, kind of like electric lights. But then when we get there, there's nothing there. So after a while, we just stop investigating because we keep chalking it up to it's just a haunted area, so we're going to stop investigating it. Some male hikers talk about smelling perfume in the air, or even feeling a light touch on the back of their neck. Some female hikers talk about feeling suddenly tense or upset, even angry at their partners for no reason. Many hikers will tell stories about stones which move near them, or some hikers say that they're thrown at them or just nearby them, but there's nobody around. The biggest takeaway is that hikers still say the romantic curse is still there. One guy said, "I entered the area with my fiancé, and within a year, he left me." Another person said, "I went in happily married and found out that she was cheating on me with the guy I often hike there with. Thank God this thing isn't for sale. It's too creepy for me." Go take a hike because the views are amazing. But you better make sure that you're either single and want to stay that way, or you're in a super solid relationship. Foxcroft is just not healthy for relationships. On the next Surely a Mystery, I've decided to take a look at mysterious New Jersey suicides. I know that might seem like a depressing topic, but it does make for good ghost stories. In fact, Jenny Jump State Park, yes, literally, a state park named after a dead 9-year-old girl who took her own life, that's for real, and I'm going to talk about that next time. So until then, stay safe and cozy wherever you choose to live. This is the Living Me signing off from LBI at the Jersey Shore.